We're in Washington this year. We were in Atlanta the last 2 years, and really appreciate you all coming out. Washington traffic being what it is, those of you who've come out from D.C. may have had a more difficult journey than those of us who flew into Dulles last night. This is our 6th NIAA symposium. Each of these antibiotic symposium have built one on the one before. We've had excellent discussion. We've really advanced the dialogue, I think. Each year we learn more and more. Our goals for this meeting, as has been for the last 5, is to really promote communication. The antibiotics issue is comprised of so many different disciplines in science, human and veterinary medicine, and of course 2 of the biggest industries in the United States, healthcare and food, and the consumers of both, which makes it applicable to pretty much everyone. We're looking forward to a positive and constructive and honest interaction so that we can all appreciate the extraordinary diversity of experience that all of us are bringing to this topic. So again, thank you, and let me introduce my colleague and co-host for this meeting, Dr. Eric Moore.
Thank you, Steve. And he didn't introduce himself, but that's Dr. Steve Solomon. Official role is consultant now, I guess, is your role. He's been intricate in bringing this symposium together. So let's thank him for he's been doing that for 4 years now. You bet. Well, great. As Steve mentioned, this is our 6th annual. How many people were at the first one in Chicago? They're here. Great. How many made the second one in Columbus, Ohio? Of course, the back row back there, of course. How about Kansas City? Atlanta. And Atlanta. Great. Now, how many people are first time here? Great. Now, everybody, keep your hands up, the first time people here. Now, everybody that's been to these symposiums, I want you to reach out to all the people that are newbies to this and let them know what we've done in the past. Let them know how we've progressed over time. So again, thank you. You can put your hands down now. We're also have the privilege of having a group from the NCBA Beef Checkoff members, or some NCBA producers from Beef Checkoff. I'd like to have them stand up if they would. There should be 10 of them here. And so, as these folks are here, I want you to reach out to them also. They'll be joining the dialogue for the first time on behalf of the Beef Checkoff and really trying to advance the message out beyond these doors. But with that, again, welcome. We are very glad you're here. We will proceed on and introduce our moderator, Dr. J. Scott Vernon, from Professor of Ag Communications at Cal Poly in California. Now, what Scott won't tell you is he's been doing that for a while, and has had a deep roots in the ag industry. One of the things we discussed earlier as we talked to our NCBA participants was the privilege he's had of actually teaching generations and siblings, not really generations, but groups of siblings that have gone back in the ag. So he's had a really strong part in building the whole business out in California. He's also started the nonprofit, which I'll let him talk about on that. So, but without ado, Scott Vernon. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks, Steve. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and to parrot what Steve and Eric said, welcome. Welcome to the Symposium on Antibiotic Use and the Stewardship of Antibiotic Use in Animals and Humans. When we think about what is a symposium, I think it's important for us to recognize that a symposium is bringing together experts to discuss and have conversations about certain topics. And our topic today, obviously, and over the next couple of days, is antibiotic use and the stewardship. And it's pretty exciting because of the level of expertise we have in the room and on the program to talk about this issue. my role as moderator is to keep the train running on time and to try to facilitate to the best I can an open and honest dialogue among participants and the speakers. And I'm excited about that because this is a dialogue that has been years in the making, and I believe we're making progress on the topic of antibiotic use. Some logistics and some housekeeping while we're here. First, we want to certainly thank our sponsors. As you can see our sponsors coming up on the screens there. They're important partners in creating this dialogue as well. And putting meetings together of this scope and size take effort. And we certainly appreciate the sponsors that you see there. We appreciate having the producers in the room because ultimately this dialogue has to hit the ground somewhere. And oftentimes it's at the farm gates and in aquaculture and pork production, beef production, poultry production, at our farms and ranches throughout the United States and literally around the world. And so we appreciate the producers being here and sharing their perspective on the issue of antibiotic use. As we go through the program, I call your attention to the materials that you have in front of you. You'll see the program and the list of speakers that we have on board. And we want to certainly thank NIAA and their staff and the steering committee for putting together a dynamic program of speakers, and certainly experts in their field. And as such, and the amount of expertise they have is also indicated in the speaker bio program. In the interest of time, I will not be reading all of the bios of each of the speakers, and so I request that you take a look at who's speaking and their level of expertise and the depth of experience that they're bringing to the table. I'll introduce them as their title and their organization, and we'll go from there. Also on the table, you'll see a series of cards. Okay? Throughout the program, we'll have opportunities to create questions and answers and ongoing two-way conversations about the presentations. If you have questions, particularly in this first round with Dr. M.A. McCracken, we'll ask you to write your question down, and Steve and Eric will gather them. Now, unfortunately, we may not be able to get to all of your questions, but we'll try to work through the questions. Some of them may be similar. We'll look for themes within the questions and pose those to the speakers. And so again, as we go along through the course of the next 2 or 3 days, write your questions down, and we have plenty of cards for you to do that. You'll also see a green card or a colored card in front of you as well. And here's what we'd like you to do with that card. Each of you come to the room with some background, some experience, some concerns, and some challenges. And we would like you to, on one side of the card, write down what is your goal for attending this conference or this symposium. What is it that you would like to know or learn, or what are some of your concerns? You don't have to put your name on it. It can be anonymous. And then at the conclusion of the 3 days, we'll ask you to go to the other side and say, what does the future look like? Now that you've been participants in this dialogue, what does the future look like to you? Or what was your greatest takeaway from the symposium? And then those will be collected and help us to inform the next steps as we take this dialogue a little bit further. So again, on one side, what's your concerns? What's your challenges that you see? What was it that you would like to know and learn throughout the symposium? And on the other side, what's your biggest takeaway, and what do you see as the future or the next steps for this dialogue? I want to remind you that we all have our tools with us, and if you would put them on silent, that would be great, as not to interrupt the speakers. We understand and appreciate that you may have to step out from time to time to take an important call or to do something of that nature. That's certainly okay. As we go along, you can see that the media is here to represent and to capture the conversations so that we can get this conversation and dialogue to a much broader audience. There'll be live streaming and tweeting, and we ask that if you want to, you can join in with the hashtag AgABX. Hashtag AgABX if you'd like to tweet and live stream information, questions, your thoughts as you watch and listen to the speakers. You know, when we come together with this, the value of bringing a symposium together is the diversity of thought, perspective, and experience in the room. And that's really what adds value, because we don't always agree. And that's okay. But at some point, when we look at a complex topic like stewardship of antibiotic use, we must at least sometimes find where the middle ground is. What's your train of thought, and where do we need to go? And then we add some complexity to the mix when we bring in the human condition and the condition of animal agriculture. It's not easy. It's a complex topic, and we understand and appreciate that. And that's why we value so much your input and your participation in this symposium.